In today's video, I have a little fan mail. Somebody wrote in and said, Ryan, can you do us a favor? Because we are considering the difference between Summerville and Mount Pleasant. And is it worth the difference in home prices? And depends on who you ask.
It depends.
I don't know what the right answer is for you, but I do know that we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to get to the bottom of it in this video. I'm really doing this so that my wife watches it and hopes she gets an idea in her head and we end up, she wants to move there and gives me the A-okay, you know. We'll see.
As if.
Getting back to you guys and the difference between Summerville and Mount Pleasant. The two most popular places to live around Charleston, if you ask me. Summerville and Mount Pleasant just have this gravity to them. All right, let's jump right into this and discuss why people decide between Summerville and Mount Pleasant and why they narrow it down to these two areas. Well, a lot of that's most likely the schools. They are the two highest rated school districts in the area. Most of Summerville falls into what's called Dorchester County, which is Dorchester District 2 schools. This is the #1 ranked school district in the greater Charleston area, according to niche.com.
It's #1 in the state.
In Mount Pleasant, they have the #1 rated traditional public high school, Wando High School. So both areas are just highly desirable when it comes to schools. And a lot of what I'm telling you about the schools, you can actually go ahead and Google today. There's a ton of information out on the internet. Now, when we first looked at this area, you know, we got a lot of different feedback from everybody, but most people told us Summerville. And so primarily that's what my wife and I kind of visually put our eyes on. But at the time, had we had known, we probably could have afforded Mount Pleasant then, and now kind of be on the other side of that. So hindsight's always 20/20, and that's okay because I'd make no regrets in life. I think you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and you know, you make decisions and jump with it. So,
But my life is good. Really good.
you know, one day if we ever decide, my wife and I will get there. But it should be noted that Mount Pleasant added a second high school. And it's a really great school. I have a lot of clients that want this school. It's called Lucy Beckham High School. And parts of Summerville that fall into Berkeley County, those are zoned for the Kane-based schools, but also Nexton has a school. And now Carnes Crossroad has a public school, K through 8th. The Carolyn Lewis School. And again, I get great feedback from my clients who actually live in these neighborhoods. But for this video, I'm going to be talking all about Summerville and all Mount Pleasant. So one of the big things that I think people generally right out of the gate notice is the elephant in the room, which is the cost difference in the cost of living, specifically in housing prices, right? I mean, in real estate, the three things that dictate the price of any real estate here is location, location, location. And baby, woo, Mount Pleasant has got the location. I mean, you've got the Isle of Palms right there, okay? You have Sullivan's Island right there. If you want to own a boat, the greatest place to own a boat. I mean, you can have a boat, store it somewhere. You can drive up to Shem Creek. I mean, the lifestyle is just... So, it's all about that location. Here in Charleston, the good rule of thumb, though, is to know that the closer you are to downtown Charleston and the beaches, the more expensive housing is going to be. So, if you're looking at a map, Mount Pleasant is very close to the beaches and very close to downtown. So as you might guess, Mount Pleasant is actually the most expensive, more than Summerville. But exactly how much more might surprise you. So year to date, the median single family home price in Summerville is just over $410,000. In Mount Pleasant, the median single family home price is over $920,000. It's over 2 times as expensive to buy a home in Mount Pleasant than in Summerville. Because of this, we're seeing a lot of people move to the Summerville area because it's literally a 35-minute drive down the highway. It's not all just because they can't afford Mount Pleasant. No, even those who can afford to live in Mount Pleasant often move to Summerville because of the dollar stretches so much further, and they can get bigger, nicer home for the money, especially if they're building semi-custom. The one thing that comes with these higher property values are higher property taxes. So, you know, if you're somebody that's like moving from a different area, a higher tax area, you may think our taxes are actually laughable, and that's a good point. Like, I just met with some people from New Jersey and they were like, yeah, 14,000. I went, 14,000. You pay more than $1,000 a month on property taxes. They go, yeah. I'm like, what's your insurance like? They're like 3,800. And I'm like, oh my God. Sometimes you have to think about it. Adding to the higher mortgage payments and insurance, being closer to the coast, you have a higher chance of being in a flood zone, requiring flood insurance in Mount Pleasant. In Summerville, you're more likely to be in Zone X, which is the lowest risk zone for floods. So you may not be required to carry flood insurance, which is another cost saving. So in my opinion, on the cost of living, right, Summerville gets the point here, okay? But one thing that is similar in both areas is the types of neighborhoods you're going to find. So both have established neighborhoods, right? So you've got older neighborhoods mixed in with newer and newer neighborhoods in historic districts. So you've got old Mount Pleasant, right, which is beautiful. And then you have kind of old Summerville. You got historic district of Summerville. And on the newer side of things, you have newer restaurants, newer stores, newer grocery shopping. Summerville has more options when it comes to expanding in more directions. They just have more acreage. Areas like Nexton, Cane Bay, Carnes Crossroads, Summers Corner, and the Ponds are just monsters. And in Mount Pleasant, you still have construction going on in Dunes West and Carolina Park. On the higher end of the budgets, though, you'll find historic districts in Summerville that's around Azalea Park and Hutchinson Square. The historic downtown area in Mount Pleasant and the historic district in the Old Village near Shem Creek are kind of similar in style, except you just have to drop a pretty penny in these areas compared to others. I mean, the historic district in downtown Summerville, some of the houses in there are north $1 million. There's one that's like $2,499,000. It's a beautiful home. It's a monster. It's like 7 bedrooms. And then you have another one, you've got homes in the Old Town, which are $4.5 million, So, I mean, it really just depends on where you are in proximity of Charleston and the water. That is going to dictate how much you would spend to get into those neighborhoods. So now, if you're watching this video, you're loving what I'm saying, do me a favor. Go ahead and click that like button below, the little thumbs up guy. Make sure you subscribe and tap that notification bell so that every time I upload a new video, you get notified. No, you. Now let's talk about the Mount Pleasant and Summerville amenities and activities. Both have just a plethora of indoor and outdoor activities.
Oh, yes. You have a plethora.
Mount Pleasant, being more coastal, offers more access to water. If quick access to the beach, surfing, kayaking, or being close to boat docks and ramps is important to you, well, boy, oh boy, put a ribbon on it. Mount Pleasant wins this category. However, Summerville isn't far from all of that, just a slightly longer drive. Both cities offer farmers markets. Summerville's farmers market runs Saturdays from April through November from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mount Pleasant's market is on Tuesday evenings from 3:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., running from April through September. Now, if you're shopping and dining, I'm giving this one a tie because with a slight edge to Mount Pleasant, though, of course, Both Summerville and Mount Pleasant offer a wide range of dining and shopping options. Many restaurants in Mount Pleasant and downtown are opening second locations in Summerville, especially in Nexton Square and downtown Nexton. You have restaurants like Taco Boy, Hall's Chop House, Page's Okra Grill, and Poogan's Porch. I mean, this means you don't have to drive all the way to downtown or Mount Pleasant to enjoy these great restaurants. And let me just say this, Mount Pleasant, we have Halls. You do not. You have to drive downtown Charleston to get to your Halls. So, ha! Just kidding. Still, Mount Pleasant's pretty badass. No joke. Mount Pleasant has a slight edge due to its proximity to downtown Charleston. Why? Some of my favorite restaurants are down there. And honestly, Sullivan's Island, are you kidding me? Do yourself a favor. Eat in Sullivan's Island. Eat it all. Try it all. Mine? Home team barbecue, baby. Go there for the smoked wings and the ribs. Game over. Gonna have to carry me out. Where many great restaurants are located, and they don't have second locations up north yet. So again, that's the edge to Mount Pleasant. They kind of do have those really cool niche food places very close by. All right, now let's talk about shopping. Both areas have big box stores like Target, Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, Costco, along with local boutique and family-owned shops and stores. When it comes to traffic, though, and commuting, it all depends on where you work. With many people working remotely, traffic is still a big issue. I mean, there's a lot of people that work remote, but damn, the roads are still busy. If you work downtown, it's quicker to get there from Mount Pleasant than from Summerville, though you'd experience elevated commute times during rush hour in both directions. Summerville's commute is slightly longer due to taking the highway down 26, but many businesses are expanding into the north of Summerville, including Volvo, Redwood Materials, the Walmart distribution plant. You've got Mercedes-Benz vans. I mean, there is just a ton coming to this side of town, making Summerville a shorter commute for those working at these locations. Because a lot of folks who live in Summerville generally work for these places. So you'll notice like the Volvo on their shirts or their polos, or you'll see all that walking around. So definitely these folks live where they work. Let's talk about weather. In storms and shit, flooding. Flooding isn't a widespread as people think. You know, people are always like, oh my God, you guys must get storms every single day. Like they're picturing our houses flooding every week. And it's not like that. It's different flood zones exist. It's not the same for every home, and not every home is flooded every time it rains or storms come through. Mount Pleasant is more prone to AE or higher flood zones, but there are a ton of spots in Mount Pleasant that are flood zone X. So requiring flood insurance if you are in one of those zones is normal, but just know that there's areas in Mount Pleasant that you don't need flood insurance. It's not required. Now, should you have it? Absolutely. While Summerville has more Zone X areas with lower flood risk. Now, they just recently announced that they took Cane Bay, Carnes Crossroad, and Nexton and Hewing Farms off of the mandatory evacuation in case we do have a named storm. So that's fantastic news, because that just up until recently was still a big debate. If you lived in Summerville, would you have to mandatory evacuate? We're 93 feet above sea level. Well, now we got our official answer, and it's been taken off the FEMA website. So kudos, everyone. Good job. Regarding hurricanes, while Summerville's further inland providing some protection, the average hurricane is 300 miles wide, and Summerville is only about 30 miles from Mount Pleasant. So while Summerville might experience less severe effects, both areas are still going to feel some sort of impact of a severe storm. This is very true, but you know, there's areas that just are more prone to flooding in Mount Pleasant, and I got to give it to Summerville on this one. Now, if you want to learn more about these areas, give me a call or check out some spotlight videos on Summerville and Mount Pleasant that I have done, some neighborhood videos. I've got a lot of really great information. I'll link it below and I'll include it at the end of the video. But you have questions, maybe you're planning a move here, Maybe you're just in the basic thinking process and you don't really want to talk on the phone yet. I get that. Go over to www.buyfromrye.com, okay? Go ahead and register. One of my team agents will reach out and say hello. And they'll always talk about how awesome I am. No,
I'm in your dreams.
they'll just tell you about what we can do and how we can help. And then if you are ready, let's say you're like, Ryan, we got to be there in 3 months. We got to get this ball rolling. Okay, well, give me a call. Pick up the phone, 843-226-5535. If you need help right now, I can help you. I hope you guys enjoyed this in-depth dive into Mount Pleasant versus Summerville. And if you want to know, honestly, I can see myself living in Mount Pleasant. If you were going to say, Ryan, would you live in Mount Pleasant or Summerville? And I got to tell you, I really do see myself living in Mount Pleasant. I just don't know if I can pull the trigger on the price of the home that I would want to upgrade from my home, and I think that's where a lot of people have the problem. One day, if I am lucky, so much so, God blesses me with it, then yes, absolutely. But you know what, in the meantime, our Summerville home, we've been here 9 years and we love it. We love our neighborhood. We can't complain. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. Go ahead and check this video out right here.